Hello and welcome to the Overwhelm is Optional podcast. I'm Heidi, Marke, coach and biggest cheerleader for successful but secretly overwhelmed women. As well as weekly episodes here on the podcast, you can find out more about what I offer by going to heidimarke.co.uk. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Overwhelm is Optional podcast. So this week I'm going to be talking about something that I wish I'd been told a very long time ago. One of those things that I kind of wish was just kind of embedded in my subconscious from an early age, or particularly as an adult. So before we get into that, I just want to quickly remind you that if you haven't yet booked a discovery call to talk about working with me, then I really want to encourage you to do that now, because obviously as a coach there's a limit to how many people I can have as clients at one time, and those spaces are filling up. I only opened them up recently and they are obviously filling already because I love my work, I'm good at what I do, and well, that's my mission, is to fill those spaces and work closely with the small number of women that I can work with at one time. So if you think you might be interested in working with me, or if you have no idea what that even means, the whole point of having a discovery call is that you get to discover that. It's such a cool thing. This is also one of the things I wish I'd understood, is that discovery calls are for discovering what you want and where you are and what you might want to do. So if you're interested, please do go to my website heidimarke.co.uk, go to the work with me page and then just click on one of the links to go straight to my calendar and book in now. And I look forward to talking to you. Okay, so how are you doing? How did your week go? Here in the UK, we've gone from it being really nice and warm to it being back to that very mixed weather of being slightly cold, then a little bit sunny, then slightly cold again. So we're back to, it's just like a normal English summer actually. But it's quite nice to have a relief from those really hot nights, which were a little bit tricky to sleep in. But it was lovely to have some beach weather for a bit. So wherever you are in the world, I hope that you are having nice weather and enjoying your life, because, well, it's made for enjoying, isn't it? Which is why around here we say no to overwhelm, because overwhelm stops you noticing and really enjoying when the weather's great. Tends to make you feel a bit like the weather's always good when you haven't got time to enjoy it. You're always stuck inside when the weather's really good, and that when you have days off it's always grey. Even if that's not true, overwhelm can kind of make you feel like that, can't it? So it's really, I don't know, it's just really important to me that you make overwhelm optional for you. So today we're talking about making having the support you need a non-negotiable. Now, this is something that I've come to very late in my life. So I'm 54, and I would say that it's taken me almost 54 years to really understand that. Now this, I don't think this is one thing that you're either like, it's not like an on-off switch, is it? All realizations about ourselves are gradual. Sometimes it feels like we have sudden insights, but then they still take time to remember and embed. So this isn't like I've suddenly gone from not understanding it to understanding it, but I'm really getting a sense of how for me it's now a non-negotiable, which is different from a nice to have or a I didn't even know help existed. So let me just explain what I mean. So years ago, I would have thought that asking for help was difficult. I don't know, just was like a sign of weakness, that I should just be able to cope on my own. And so I did. I found it quite difficult to ask for help. I didn't always ask the right people, so they might not have treated that with the vulnerability and the love and respect that asking for help requires. Or they might have demanded things in exchange that I wasn't happy for, whether that's like compliant kind of behaviour, or I don't know, just like it's that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the struggle to ask for help. And well, I am talking about that. I'm talking about, for me, that's where it comes from. I think for a lot of us it does. It's like we're supposed to be self-reliant, we're supposed to be really tough, and we're not supposed to need to ask for help, and therefore asking for help becomes difficult. And particularly if you're somebody who likes making people happy and not disappointing someone, and if you like helping other people and keeping them happy, it can become really hard to ask for help, because it's a bit like you then have to swap places. So I think I believe this is an incredibly important subject. The idea that not only is it okay to ask for help, but moving much further on to actually just not demanding as in stamping your feet and being difficult, but just expecting that you have the support you need to live the best life you can live. Now, that can look like lots of different things. Now, obviously, I'm a coach. So for me, it's really important that I have a coach who gets me, who supports me, who helps me constantly up level, but in a way that's done so with love and deep understanding, and someone who's really holding that space for me. That's really important to me. And that kind of real quality support, and just demanding that as in this is just who I am. This is what I expect. This is what I wish to have in my life. To get to that point has taken me a long time, even as a coach. And one of the reasons for that is, I guess, as somebody who trained in psychology, coaching was kind of on the outside of psychology when I first looked at it 15 years ago, 16 years ago. It was very much an add-on, whereas therapy would have come into it. So when I completed my degree with the Open University in 2006, there were 3 of us who finished, 2 other people close to me, 3 of us finishing within a couple of years of each other. And the other 2 decided to become therapists. And I wanted to be a coach. And they are both excellent therapists, and I've become an excellent coach. But they got there before me because for lots of reasons. One of them is it's a kind of clearer path, right? So everybody knows about therapy. Whereas coaching is interesting in that it's, particularly here in the UK, it's not talked about as much. In America, I think it's talked about more. It's kind of expected for top business leaders. Like, that's just, coaching top execs is quite normal. But for the rest of us, coaching isn't kind of seen as nor's therapy actually, but therapy would be more likely to be your go-to thing for support if you were struggling with something. But even that has taken quite a long time in the UK to be broken down into it's not a weakness, there's nothing wrong with you. It's not only okay to go and pay for therapy or to ask for support, but it can be a good option for you. But therapy is not always what you want. And I think this has taken me quite a long time to really understand within the framework of asking for help. So obviously there's other sorts of asking for help. There's asking, there's having good boundaries and asking for support from those people who love you. There's boundaries and asking for the right support within a working environment. But I want to talk about the difference between that, and because that can take quite a long time to get to. So I'm talking about the difference between that, which can require support to get that support, to have relationships where you feel supported in different areas of your life. To get to that point, I think it requires support. So if you have friends who are just used to that, if you have a friend who just goes, who behaves with the expectation that they get the support they need at work, who has really good boundaries and models those for you, even if you're somebody who has weaker boundaries, it's easier for you to ask for support in different areas of your life. It's just easier. It becomes, and I want to normalise it. So what I want to normalise is my area of support. I want it to be normal for us to say, yeah, actually, I want some support. I'm going to hire somebody for that support or ask for that support from somewhere. And I think one of the things we struggle with is the fact that when we're the people who everybody depends on, when we're shouldering all of this support, it can be really, really difficult to have the idea that we would receive support. And the reason for this is it's like we swap places, isn't it? It's like, well, I failed. I should be able to do it without support because I'm the go-to person to help people. And moving from it being a weakness to it being a strength, to it being actually, because, so we can turn this around, because I am the go-to person, because I've got a lot riding on me, because I'm shouldering a lot for other people, that means I am entitled to even more support. Can you see? You could turn that around. You could say, well, actually, if I look at it, I'm holding a lot together for a lot of people. I love doing that, but actually it's hard. It's costing me. I feel overwhelmed. I don't want to do it this way. I don't want to lose that position of respect. I really like loving people and supporting them in that way. I really like being the person who can make things better in a working environment. I like this. It's part of who I am. I don't want to give it up. So in which case, if you're that person but you're struggling, which, let's face it, is not surprising, is it? Look at everything you're holding together. Then why shouldn't you invest in support for yourself? Why is it difficult for us? And I think it's a cultural thing. I think for us here, particularly in the UK, I think it's more likely in different countries than it is in the UK. I only can speak to my own experience and the cultural environment I'm in. So when I first looked at coaching within psychology, so within the academic arena, there were coaching psychologists, but they were very new. And I joined the special group in coaching psychologists, and I read all the stuff and, subscribed to the periodical and everything. And I read up on it, and there was more and more evidence coming out. And as I learnt more about coaching and did different training and did my work on becoming the coach I am today, I learnt more and more about how it was able to help people. And I fell in love with coaching. I fell in love with coaching very, almost immediately, and then investigated it further. And then I just came to the limit of what I was learning within the academic arena. And also then I panicked, didn't have the confidence. And instead of fully committing and growing my business, this is 16 years ago, I went into education instead. And I had a big detour, and I'm sure you've heard me tell you this story before if you've been listening for a while. Otherwise, I'll briefly summarise. So I went into teaching mathematics, but then got really, really keen on bringing coaching into the large school I was working in, convinced senior management that every teacher needed a coach. I was coaching senior managers, I was coaching failing teachers, I was coaching new teachers, I was teaching teachers to coach each other. I was running coaching. It was really exciting. I loved it, but it didn't really fit. There's not really the ethos within education. There's not really the time. So it was interesting. I'm really grateful for the experience. I learned a lot. My coaching skills obviously improved, and it also, because I was teaching how to coach, it made me break down the process and really think about it. So that obviously adds to how I coach today. So lots of it was exciting, but in the end it was stopped, not surprisingly, in the kind of climate we have around money and education and outcomes. Shame, but I'm really grateful for the opportunity. So then I left education, not in a particularly stylish way, if you listen to my episodes about that, and I just crashed and burned. And then I lost my confidence, so that when I set up my business, I didn't set my business up to coach. I set myself up as a course creator, because I'm also a highly experienced teacher. And I was kind of hiding behind that because that's what I needed to do at the time. And I wouldn't say hiding in a bad way. I'm just saying, that's where I was on my journey. And then increasingly, I've just been doing more and more coaching, obviously, because that comes into delivering really high outcomes for people who invest in my courses. And then I was doing coaching all the way through. I just wasn't advertising it. I just wasn't stating it clearly. And in the past few months, I've just started to really state it more clearly, as I've just realised how much I love coaching. This is what, and how good I am at it, and how committed I am to it, and how for me it's just such joyful work. And this is why. So coaching enables you to pay for support, which changes the relationship. So when you pay for support, you're not having to apologize, you're not having to excuse, you're not having to say, oh, I'm sorry that I talked too much or I offloaded. You don't need to be doing that. That doesn't mean that my clients never do that. They do that, and I remind them that there's no need to do that. But that's just because I work with people like me who are just lovely and want to just be kind and aren't used to putting themselves first. And that's just part of it. That's part of the learning, is saying, no, you get to offload in a coaching session, but don't worry, because I'm not going to let you use your entire session to offload, because that wouldn't serve you. So the really lovely thing about coaching is that, from my point of view, and I think one of the problems I have with the coaching industry is there's a lot of kind of like, I don't know, there's quite a few, you just follow the same, not the same questions, but the same format, and it's quite obvious. It's more kind of formatted. And for me, I can't work in that way. So although I am using models, I am following a process, I've very much made it my own process, and I've very much made it bespoke to my clients, who are successful but very overwhelmed women who want their life back, who are sick of the overwhelm, just want to start enjoying the life they've worked so hard for. So I work in a very, very specific way to my lovely, lovely women. Honestly, they're so incredible. I can't describe really the words for my clients. I have so much respect for them and so much love for them, and they constantly astound me with their courage, their commitment, their breakthroughs, their joy. I've got to tell you, for me, coaching is just such an incredible privilege, to witness somebody in that and to hold the space for them and guide them back to themselves, to be able. So one of my superpowers is being able to see somebody and see the person that they already are, that they can't kind of embody, that they can't step into yet, and helping them step into that. So it's so good because it's so empowering. That's what I love. So I guess one of the things for me that I didn't want to do, one of the reasons I didn't become a therapist, is because it's kind of almost like the opposite. I don't think it really is. I think probably there are some similarities as there are with most fields, but for me, I didn't want to go backwards and work through stuff. I mean, we still do that. That still stuff is going to come up ready to be released. But the difference is, I guess for me, is that with coaching, you're always going for a next level. So you're not mending anything. You're not, I don't know. I can't really speak about therapy because I'm not a therapist. Although I know lots about it, I don't really want to talk about what it is. It's different for different people. For me, I can only speak as a coach and how I work. And what I love about my work is that, starting from the premise, which is how I always start and underlies all of my work, the Zen premise that you are both perfect and a work in progress, and that the work is gradually but gently and firmly letting go of all the beliefs and habits that are in the way of that are in the way of you accepting yourself as perfect. And that is the game of life. But with a coach, you get to do it deeper, faster, more effectively, and more easily, and it's more fun. It's just more fun. So you can self-coach to a certain extent, definitely. I've done loads of self-coaching. You can journal, you can read all the books, you can do all of the free stuff. So you can get a long way. But when you make that commitment to investigate coaching for yourself, to pay for support for yourself, support which enables you to have what you want and more. So if we think of what happens, we work really hard and we get to a point in our life where we realise we're overwhelmed, and then we Google help for that. And if you're lucky, you find this podcast, and then you feel better and you resonate and you feel like, oh, I'm so glad it's not just me, and I feel calmer and I feel better, and oh, that makes so much sense. And then you might start doing some of the practices that I describe for free, or you subscribe to my email and get my free resources, or you might have watched a video or come to a workshop or follow me on Instagram, and so you're getting some input, and then you start to realize that it is possible. You start to get those lovely glimpses of, so this is how it feels when I'm not overwhelmed. And from that point, because the overwhelm is blocking the easier ways to live, from that point you can start to get a sense, yes, I can have what I want. Because what you actually want is the life you've worked really hard to create, which you can't really feel at home in at the moment, and which you're trying to squish yourself into. Now, what's the difference between squish and squash? And I understand that I made the word squish up. I get that. So squashed to me is when we're kind of squashing ourselves down really small, whereas squished is more than that. Squished is like when you're pushing yourself, trying to push yourself into a different shape so that you fit into your life. Can you see? So you're trying to be somebody else. So an example of that for me would be, the alarm goes early in the morning. I'm really overwhelmed and exhausted, but I'm at that point in my career where I'd convinced myself that I had the best job in the world, and all I needed to do was be more productive, better at sleeping, do more exercise, have more energy, be more organised so I could be more productive and just kick ass, so that, the alarm goes off, get out of bed, everything's prepared the night before, so just go, then have a theme tune for the day, psych myself up, put on a suit of armour, so it's a metaphorical suit of armour, toughen up and go into work and kick ass. And I rocked. I'm not every day, but in general I was a really good teacher. Really good outcomes. Kids responded well to me, and I helped a lot of teachers, and I took a lot of pressure off other teachers. I was whole filling, I was helping run a large department, I was supporting teachers through coaching, I was doing a lot, and I loved it. At least I thought I loved it. There was a lot about it that I loved. But what I was actually doing was squishing myself in. So because I'd worked so damn hard, and it was such a joy to be in this position to make a difference, I had to keep it going. I couldn't lose all of that. It had become my identity. It had become part of who I was, and the ability to help people. I couldn't just say no. If somebody came to me with a problem, because I have that kind of mind that goes, oh yeah, I can solve that really easily. That was a joy. But the problem is, it meant that I started losing more and more of my lunch times, started coming home later, because some of the best conversations happened at the end of the day when the kids had all gone home, and you could actually have a conversation about like getting an overview of the work rather than just being in the work, actually strategizing, trying to make things easier. And because I loved it, I put more and more into it. And then I tried to make it so that I could also have a life, because that was important to me. The whole point was that I could have this life. I wanted it all. But what I was doing was trying to change myself to fit into it. So I kept trying different things like meditating, yoga, mindfulness, all sorts of different things, exercise, sleep hacking. I tried so many things. But the problem is my life was becoming more and more rigid, more and more scheduled. So in order to cope with these huge, they're outrageously overwhelming work pressures. The stuff in my head physically hurt. My brain, I'm sure you can relate to this, when your brain physically feels bruised, when you're forcing yourself to think through the overwhelm. And I had no idea it was overwhelm. I had no idea. I was helping overwhelmed people. I was making their life easier. Overwhelmed kids and teachers would come to me and I would solve problems, make them feel better, take on their crap, obviously. And I thought I had good boundaries and I thought I was doing good things. And I'm sure I did do a lot of good things, but the cost was too high. So first of all, I was losing my evenings, I was losing sleep, then weekends, and then even holidays. So because everything became about coping with the working week. So I was doing more and more, just prep the night before. Lunch is made, clothes are laid out, go. It was like a military operation. And I got to the stage where, I read all the books on sleep and practice really good what they call sleep hygiene, which means going to bed at the same time, setting up your sleep space in a certain way and all that. But I got to the stage where if anybody disturbed that, I was like a wailing banshee. And what I know now is that we don't need to do any of that. We don't need to put all that pressure on ourselves. We don't need to be better. We don't need to get more organised. We can choose to get more organised, but that's not where we start. Because when you focus on getting through, without anybody noticing how stressed you are, that's what you get really good at. You just become an expert at it. I was so good at kicking ass without anybody realising that I was stressed. I was brilliant at it until I wasn't, because I pushed myself too hard and I just wasn't recovering. So the stress was just building up and up and up. I didn't know, despite all my knowledge. It wasn't a lack of knowledge. It's not that you don't know, it's that you don't know what to do with it. And I did ask for help. There was all sorts of things. I tried all sorts of things. My partner's incredibly supportive. I tried loads of things. I tried reducing my hours so that I would have time to write, because I was really passionate about writing. I tried lots and lots of different combinations of things to make it work. I tried so many things. And eventually, when I was really overwhelmed and I no longer knew what to try, I was at a real impasse of like, do I quit even though I worked really hard and I'm obviously really successful and I like the money and I like the holidays and I like for me it was about impact. I'm very heart-led and I wanted to have a big impact, and I was in a position to have a really good impact and I didn't want to lose that. So I was just stuck. I was like, this isn't right. What do I do? And I hired a coach. But what I didn't understand at the time is that there are lots of different ways of coaching. This is what I didn't understand. Although I'd studied coaching and was a coach, I didn't really understand. And that would be because the coaching industry would have changed since I'd trained. And also because I wasn't in a sector that used or recognised coaching. So what I was doing was extraordinary, bringing coaching into education. So I was just weird. I was the other, like, what's coaching? Why are we having coaching? So if I'd been in a sector where coaching was more normalised, even if it was only for like the hierarchy of businesses, at least it would have made more sense. But I didn't really understand. That there were coaches with different niches. So if I could have found me then, if I'd known what I know now and I could have found me then so much pain, so much money as well, God, would have just, not been wasted. So what I'm saying is, and if this is resonating with you, please, just book a discovery call. It's just me and you and a cup of tea. It really is just the most wonderful experience, because it's so empowering for you. You get clarity on where you are and what options there are, which is what I didn't have back then. I don't sell coaching. First of all, I don't need to, and secondly, yuck, that's just not me. There's no need to sell coaching, not for me. And that's what's really put me off marketing myself as a coach, is I've been sold to in the most sledgehammer, horrible way by other coaches. So I just didn't put coach. Like, if you look at my logo, it doesn't mention coach. It now needs updating because I'm reclaiming it. I'm rebelling against the kind of aggressive tactics used in the coaching industry. I'm just that they can do that. They're not all like it. There's lots of wonderful coaches I've now discovered, and this is me. This is how I work. So what was I saying? Yeah. So if you're interested in finding out more and you want to just chat, just book a discovery call, because you get to talk. I listen. You get clarity. I tell you what some possible options are. You can go away and think about it. It's that easy. It's the most wonderful experience. I now wish that I had known how easy it is to decide to use discovery calls, because all coaches offer them in various forms. If I'd known that I could literally have booked 10 discovery calls with coaches who I thought I might resonate, and just made an informed decision and used their coaching skills to help me make that decision, I would have done that a long time ago. I just didn't know. And that's one of the things I'm telling you right now, is that option is there for you. The option of coaching is there for you. And coaching, to me, is the best way, if you can find the right coach who you resonate with. Really, really important. You must resonate. Absolutely. When you find the right coach for you, the process you go through of even considering it, because I know it can be scary. I get that. Even hovering over the discovery button, like, that makes you question. All sorts of stuff comes out, like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? What if it's horrible? What if it's embarrassing? What if I feel pressured? Like, lots of stuff comes up. All of that, the stuff that comes up, the daring to even consider it, that's all good for you. It's all good for you. It is a rebellious act of self-care to book a discovery call. What is booking it with me is. And I'm not trying to put you off booking with other coaches and saying you must pick me. No, we might not be a fit to work together. I don't know until I talk to you. I'm saying it's a rebellious act of self-care to book a discovery call with me, because I will hold you in absolute love and respect and empower you to think about your life. It is a rebellious act of self-care to book discovery calls with coaches who act like that. Absolutely is. Even if you decide you don't want to invest in a coach, it's the act, it's the consideration. It's like, oh, I didn't even know this was a thing. Yes, it is a thing. It is absolutely a thing. So if you want therapy, go and get therapy. But if you want coaching, which is supporting you to find the deep gold within you, guiding you back to your own wisdom, in order to, instead of squishing yourself into your life, to make tiny but tiny huge. So tiny changes which result in this beautiful ripple where you gradually, gently but firmly, make your life work for you. So then you get to have what you want, which is you get to keep what you want. You get to keep the self-respect, the ability to have an impact, the ability to make other people happy, and you get to prioritize yourself, to make yourself happy, to prioritize your own needs, so that you feel great and you feel at ease and you feel lighter and you feel able to be there for other people because you are there for yourself. This is really important. You matter. How you are matters. And when you decide that having support in whatever form and whatever that means to you, but when you decide that having the support that you need is a non-negotiable, everything changes. It's magical, even considering it. What's coming up for you now? You think, oh, Heidi, but I couldn't afford that. You don't understand. I just, a coach? Really? It's a thing? Like, whatever's coming up for you. And by the way, if you're going, yes, Heidi, I know, where's the button? It's below this episode and it's on the Work With Me page several times of my website, heidimark.co.uk/work with me. Book it now, because I can't wait to talk to you, because I love discovery calls, because they're so magical. I get curious. I love talking to you. I learn loads. And I get to be a coach, which is one of my favourite things to do in the whole world. And you get clarity, you feel lighter, and your world gets expanded in this delicious way. It's just such a nice thing to do. I highly recommend it. Anyway, I really, really wanted to, this is quite an up-leveling episode. This is me daring you to say, you get to. There is support there. You get to. It is a thing. If you don't know about the coaching industry, it's growing rapidly because it works, because it's so joyful, because we want to live our lives to the full. And having a coach means you get to do that with support, with ease, which makes it faster, easier, lighter. Just there's more laughter involved. Everything you do is more effective. It saves you a ton of time. Honestly, I cannot recommend coaching enough. I love it. I love coaching. Is it for you? You get to decide. I just want to say it's becoming normal. It's becoming a thing that we get to have as successful women. Have a great week. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If this resonates with you, please use the like, subscribe and share buttons to help other people find their way here too. And please do go to www.heidimark.co.uk/the 1 minute mark with an E to join my mailing list and receive my free 1 minute life-changing audio practice.